What is the green coloring matter in a green plant that enables them to make food?
Chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll. So remember, you have your plant and it has a bowl and it's mixing up some green chlorophyll. And what's that process called that when it's making food? Photosynthesis. Right. Let's see here. How about, who can tell me the three main parts of a tree? Logan.
Trunk, crown, root.
Very good. What's at the top?
Crown.
Right. The crown, the trunk, and then the roots. Who can tell me the three main groups of trees? Alex?
Pine. Pine.
Well, pine is part of what group?
Needle.
Right. Needle, leaf. And then what's another one? Or can you say the other ones?
Palm.
Palm is another one.
And I just have
Think of a needle leaf is real skinny. What's the other kind?
Does it start with an S?
No. Jacob?
Probably.
A broadleaf. It's either a needle leaf or broadleaf. Which actually, I brought some leaves with me today. Who can tell me what a conifer is? We talked about this at our restroom break. What's a conifer? Marissa.
A plant, a tree
Mm-hmm.
that produces cones, not flowers.
Right. And it even gives you a hint at the beginning of the word. Conifer, it doesn't have the E in there, but is a tree that produces cones instead of, not ice cream cones, cones instead of flowers. So a pine tree produces a pine cone. It's a conifer tree, so it produces a pine cone. Let's see here a minute. How about, would somebody want to come up and draw a real quick sketch of a flower and label the parts? All right, Micah. I'll tell you what, while you're doing that, I'm going to ask some more questions. What is the name of our state flower?
Is it the
Black-eyed Susan, right. Just a real quick sketch. You don't need to be all detailed and stuff. What are two important jobs that weeds do? Even though weeds are part of the curse, Logan, what are some jobs of a weed?
They usually sometimes help other plants.
Okay. How?
Like keep them spaced out.
All right. I meant for you to like just the head of the flower. You don't need. Okay. Anyone else? Can you tell me a job of a weed? Jensen?
To produce water for other plants.
Water? How does a weed produce water?
Underground.
No, they don't produce water. Jana?
Destroys gardens.
Well, that's not a good thing, though. Okay, put your foot up. Alex?
It loosens soil so roots can grow.
Right. It loosens the soil to let the soil aerate, and then also it prevents the soil from washing away. If there were no plants and trees, then all the soil would wash away whenever it rained, and then we would have no land.
These are it said something petals.
Yeah, they have a name. Do you remember?
No.
Help them out. What are these leaves called underneath that protect the
Sepals.
bud?
Sepals.
Sepal.
But he put
also help feed birds and things, right? And then also some weeds produce medicine. All right, can you guys focus on me for a second? We'll look at him in a minute. I'm helping you with your test. All right. What are the 3 main parts of a seed? Marissa. Please stop. What are the 3 main parts of a seed? What are the 3 main parts of a seed? Thank you. Mason.
Seed coat.
Mm-hmm.
Stored food.
Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Called a what? What's the little baby plant called? Lucy? Embryo. Very good. Very good. Okay. Let's do a quick. Let's see how much you remember. Tell you what, let's go over a couple new flowers and then I'll quiz you on all of them. Or most of them. Alright, anybody know what this is called?
Lady slipper.
Lady slipper. Very good. Ooh, these smell so good in the spring. Lilac. These smell really good too.
I see this sometimes.
Lily of the Valley. Have you? That's in the Bible too. Lily of the Valley.
Dandelion.
Starts with an M. Marigold. Marigold. This is a Morning Glory. This is a Mountain Avens.
Do you see those on the mountain?
They are, yes, they grow up on open, high altitude, rocky areas. So actually very up northern, like even northern Canada, they grow. Okay, this is a, and I do not know how to pronounce that. Nasturtium. Okay. This is a orchid. Some of you might be drawing these in your art class. This is a pansy. I saw Mrs. Albaugh had a picture of that. This is a pasque flower. Pasque flower. We have these in our flower bed, my friend. Now some people say peony or some people say peony, not pantyhose. Okay, peony. This is a petunia. Then we've got. We have these at our house too. These are a butterfly. The butterflies like these. Phlox.
My grandmother has them.
Mm-hmm.
In our backyard, every warm day, we come over there. There's this giant spider that comes every spring, and it always lays eggs, so it keeps on making generations in that bush. And also, sometimes we have fun, and we go over to them, and then we flap like a bird, and we go like ah. And then literally the butterfly starts circling around us like a tornado, and it's so cool.
Okay. All right, let's keep going, guys. What's this? Pitcher plant.
Cornelius. No. Maple. It is.
This is a Christmas flower.
Holly.
I think you're drawing this, Jacob, aren't you? For art? Poinsettia.
Yeah, that's what I said.
This is a poppy. This is a prairie lily. Queen Anne's lace.
I have those around.
We have these at our house. It grows into a big bush, a big tree almost. Rhododendron. They grow wild also. Rose. salvia. This is a funny name. Ready? Snapdragon. It's a snapdragon.
Snapdragon reminds me of
Yes.
a cow plant.
These are sweet pea.
Sweet pea. Goldenrod.
Now this is, oh, we have this one. We know that in our book, tansy.
Those are the weeds that go around my house.
No, this is a thistle.
Yeah.
Trailing arbutus. Oh, we don't. Micah, you have one of these for art. It has 3 petals. Trillium. Very good, Mason. Because tri is 3. Violet.
That's the one
Water lily. This is, yeah, a white garden lily.
Hold on, can I see that again?
So it's an Easter lily.
No. I thought it's
Yeah, they're kind of like around,
Easter
right,
lily.
also known as an Easter lily. This is a wild rose. Oh, these hang down
Porcupine flower.
underneath. Wisteria. Those are pretty. And then last one, we have these in our garden, Micah. Starts with a Z. Zinnia. Zinnia. Let me see if you can remember any from yesterday. I'm not going to do all of them, just some. Okay? Actually, this was the one named after cardinal flower. They do look similar though. Good. Touch me not's also called jewelweed. This is your eye has a iris. These smell really good in the spring. And they're also poisonous, right? Hyacinth. These smell good and do you remember that one? It's kind of a Hawaiian looking flower. Hibiscus.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Good. This is geranium. What's this, Mason? Yeah. Okay. Little tiny forget-me-not. This is not, what'd you say? Not ironweed. Fireweed. Actually, I just realized these are what my mom has at her house, and it's called an evening primrose, which I did not know the name of them. It's actually, you can sit there and watch the blossom open. Like you can see it, it's all curled up in a bud, and then it just real slowly starts to it kind of unravels, and then you can sit there and watch it, and it just goes like this, and then it pops open, just like that. It's pretty neat. You can actually watch it open. All right, let's just do one more. Dogwood. Very good. Okay, whoever barked, go move your pen, please. Okay, we're not going to do that. All right, page 71. Okay, yes, page 71. We're going to read about George Washington Carver.
Wasn't he the one who likes the peanut?
We'll find out. Okay, follow along as I read. There shouldn't be any calling out. If we have a comment, you need to raise your hand. Ready? From the time he was very young, a young boy, George Washington Carver loved plants. He also wanted to know all he could about them. What made some plants thrive while others withered and died? Why are some flowers pink and others blue? George was filled with curiosity and a thirst for knowledge. Whenever he had free time, he roamed the woods. He learned to use his eyes and ears. Because he was a careful observer, George became familiar with all living things. However, the study of plants was his special love. He recorded his observations accurately in the beautiful pictures he drew. George also had a talent for helping sick plants to become healthy again. He used this God-given ability to help any neighbor with an ailing plant. Even though he was only a boy, he earned the nickname the Plant Doctor. It sounds as though George had a wonderful childhood, doesn't it? But George was an orphan who had been born a slave. When he was young, he was small and not very strong. It would have been easy for him to feel sorry for himself, but George was too busy learning. There was no school nearby for him to attend, so when he was almost 9 years old, he left home to go to school in another town. For many years, George worked hard and did without things so that he could go to grade school, high school, and then college. George never stopped learning. Many years later, to honor him for his outstanding work, his college presented him with a Doctor of Science degree. One of his professors said that George was a brilliant student, the best scientific observer he had ever seen. How do you think George developed those qualities? He looked carefully, thought about what he saw, and asked God to help him see and understand even more. Can you guys stop? I hear pages rattling. Okay, keep your pages nice and still. Dr. Carver was a superb artist and an excellent musician. Probably he could have had a career in either of those fields, but he was determined to use his talents to help his people, the poor farmers of the South. For many years, most Southern farmers had grown only cotton or tobacco. These crops had removed important minerals from the soil. Now the soil was poor, and so were the farmers. The soil would not produce enough for them to make a living. Dr. Carver knew he could help the farmers by teaching them better methods of agriculture, the science of farming. He saw his chance when in 1896 he was asked to teach at Tuskegee Institute, a college in Alabama. Dr. Carver got right to work setting up a model farm at Tuskegee. This helped not only the students, but also anyone who wanted to come, watch, and ask questions. To help those who could not come, Dr. Carver began a movable school. He traveled and taught people better ways to farm. He taught them to rotate crops. Instead of always growing cotton, farmers learned to grow peanuts, vegetables, or soybeans. These crops enriched the soil. But what would farmers do with bushels and bushels of peanuts? So, Dr. Carver got to work again. He set up a laboratory with whatever odds and ends he could find for equipment. His most valuable piece of equipment, however, was his Bible. He kept a copy in his laboratory at all times. Before he began working with a plant, Dr. Carver would ask God to show him his plan for that plant. Dr. Carver often said that he leaned on Genesis 1:29. And God, read that with me. And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat." Dr. Carver's laboratory became known as God's little workshop. Dr. Carver began his investigation of plants. He formed hypotheses, experimented, and then recorded his observations. He did not discover everything at once, but over the years he found 75 uses for pecans, 115 uses for tomatoes, 118 uses for sweet potatoes, and over 300 uses for peanuts. He also made a marble-like product from wood shavings, concrete from cotton stalks, dyes from clay, and rubber from goldenrod milk. Many times people offered him large sums of money to leave Tuskegee and work for them instead. One of these men was his good friend, Henry Ford. How many of you drive a Ford? Your parents drive a Ford. Right. You better not drive a Ford. Dr. Carver always refused, however. He chose to use his marvelous talents to help others, not to enrich himself. By his life and teaching, Dr. George Washington Carver showed that science is a wonderful tool to unlock and use the wonders of God's creation. So, how many of you had never heard of George Washington Carver? Okay. So, do you think he might have been named after George Washington?
Wasn't he the president?
Maybe. Not George Washington Carver. George Washington was the president. All right. So, what we're going to do is, get out your activity book. And let's see here. All right, on page 42, we have a mixture of flowers and birds. And we're going to, oh, Micah, I'm sorry. I forgot to go back to your picture here. So we've got the leaves and the petals. It should have a T. Petals are like what you have on your bike. Petals. You have your smile in the middle with your face. And the stamen are the long. Is that what you drew? The long. Okay. And then the sepal. And we're missing.
The pistol.
Yes, the pistil's in the center. Okay, that's the part that makes the seeds. And then on top of the stamen is what? Pollen. Good. And then that bee is saying plant. Smile. All right.
You have to fix the stinger. The stinger
So, sorry, Micah, I need to erase. All right. Let's see if we can fill in the blanks here. Micah. Okay. Being a distraction. All right, let's see if we can fill out the first row. Who can tell me? Let's just go ahead. You tell me where they are. Ready? Robin. One at a time.
Goldenrod.
Here. Okay, and then we have goldenrod. Then a dandelion. Then this one might be a little tough.
Is it the fireweed?
No, it almost looks like a crocus, but it's called a pasque flower. And then I'm going to erase this because I need more room. What's that last one called?
I want to see if it's
So second row, what's the first thing in the second row?
Lady
slipper.
Lady's slipper. Make sure you're spelling them correctly since. And then what's that next one? I said it just a second ago. I said this one kind of looks like a
Meadowlark? No.
It has flowers.
Crocus.
crocus.
I know there's a tulip.
And then after the crocus is a what?
Fireweed.
Fireweed. Good. And then
Wild rose?
wild rose.
And then is it meadowlark?
Yes.
Meadowlark. What is that?
And then we have a bird that is called a meadowlark.
Tansy.
The color. Yeah,
Right, is everyone caught up?
Tansy.
Okay, tansy. And then the next one is a blue flower. Chicory. You guys should be able to, when you go for a walk or something, ought to be able to find a lot of these. What's that bird?
Mockingbird.
Good. And then the next flower is no
Daisy.
daisy. Yeah, well the center is yellow.
Well, we can't tell because it's black and
Well, it's definitely not black.
white. It's black and white.
And then what's the name of the last flower there?
There's things.
It's actually the September flower.
What? So they grow during September.
Starts with an A. Oh, aster. Now the next
Butter and eggs.
plants have they each have two words to them.
Butter and eggs.
Butter and eggs. Wow, you guys remember that.
name ever.
Butter and eggs.
I guess they ate it in their egg.
Well, I think it's because it's the color of butter and the color of eggs.
Butter and eggs.
Maybe they thought it was butter and eggs, and then they looked at it closer. And then they're like, oh man, 50 million.
Maybe it tastes like butter and eggs. I don't know. What is the next flower?
Try the ivy.
Not it's not the It does have three.
Pitcher plant.
Trillium.
But is that the one I called?
But it has 2 words.
Oh, white trillium. Sorry. You're right though, it does have 3 leaves.
I do not know.
And then the next one is
Pitcher plant.
Violet. Violet.
Iris.
right, purple violet.
A dead plant.
Which that's a color of the rainbow. Roy G. Biv. Look, the V in Roy G. Biv is violet.
Basically violet.
Violet is a bluish purple.
Yeah, so it's violet.
Well, purple is purple, and violet's kind of bluey purple. So I don't. But you're right. It kind of repeats itself. And then what's the next?
Morning glory.
Good. And that's kind of my neighbor has that. It climbs. It's real pretty.
Pitcher plant. Pitcher plant.
Pitcher plant.
Pitcher plant is the. Pitcher plant. Pitcher plant.
And then the first flower? It's a pilgrim flower.
Mayflower.
Micah?
When you said Luigi Biff, in Wild Cats, they found a poisonous frog that was so colorful, they named him Luigi Biff. His first name was Roy, his second name was G, and his third name was Biff.
His last name was Biv.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roy G. Biff.
All right, what's the name of the next flower? Queen Anne's lace. Good job.
People believe a lot. Scissor-tailed queen, scissor-tailed shoelace.
Right. Scissor-tailed, which I've never seen one of those.
Is it blue or gray? Queen Anne needs to tie her shoelace. And tie her. Is Queen Anne actually a real person?
I'm sure it was named. That's your homework this weekend, Micah. To do a report on the Queen Anne's lace.
And you're gonna make sure he does?
Mhm.
And then he has to read it in front of everybody?
Yes. Okay. What's the next flower? Black-eyed Susan.
Good job.
Remember
And then
Susan got punched and got blacked
And then what's the last flower?
Not when you were looking flower.
Has a name.
Milkweed.
No.
The ID crave plant.
Western
Lily.
Western red lily.
The Western people got a red eye, and Lily got a red Western eye.
Okay, Jensen. Let's go ahead and let's try to finish up the plants in here. Because on Monday, I want to play a review game for your test on Tuesday. So go to page 43. Has everyone written all these answers down? Number 1 on page 43. How many flowers are in the picture? Look again.
I don't know.
Three.
Look again.
Three.
Look again.
27.
4.
A million. 17. 18.
All right.
2000.
The answer is found in your book. Okay, it's enough. On page 56. 54.
54.
Uh-huh.
That's how many are in there?
No, it's the answer.
There is no 54.
Page 54 in your science book. The answer is many. You know why?
Because they never know how to count.
Because this is,
It gives you a hint.
I think this is either a daisy or a sunflower. And remember, it's not just one flower. It contains disc flowers and ray flowers. So, and remember, each one of those is a flower. So the answer is many. There are many flowers in that one flower. Yes.
I thought of fireweed or ironweed mixed with Friday summer.
Okay, let's talk about that in a minute. Let's get this done, okay? Number 2, the plant is probably a member of what family?
Daisy family.
Okay, that's probably what I would have said.
Because
So,
she said it was a daisy.
but the name of the flower is, trying to look for it in here. It does say they're members of the daisy family. I'm looking for the word composite. Or, well, I'll tell you what, write composite there and I need to look into that. I'm a little unsure of that myself. Okay, there's too much talking.
Is that, it's an F
Micah,
before that.
there's too much talking.
F before the E. Or T.
T.
Oh.
S-I-T-E. I guess a composite is something made up of lots of things. So a composite flower is made up of lots of flowers. Okay? So, like a sunflower is actually made up of lots of flowers. It's a composite of the flowers. Number 3, how is the leaf-cutting bee helping the plant? So that, on that picture, right, he is pollinating. So, actually, pollen. And then switch it, how is the plant helping the bee?
Giving it honey or like nectar.
Right, providing food. Providing food.
Can I say giving it food?
You can even just write food if you want.
And I know these. I know no.
Write the letter of the correct answer. So which one of these seeds would most likely be spread by the wind? C. Why?
Because they have parachutes.
Right, because it has that feathery looking thing that's a parachute and the wind will take it away. So number 1 is C. And number 2, which seed?
B.
Let me read it first. Which seed would most likely...
B.
Let me read it first. Which seed would be most likely to hitch a ride on an animal's fur?
B.
Now say it.
B.
B. Why didn't you say so?
Okay, so B is a B.
Alright.
I didn't know. B.
Because that seed has little hooks on it that would hook onto
So the
an animal's fur. Alright, turn the page. Mason?
Actually, letter B actually starts with the name of it.
What? Which is? What do you mean? What do you mean? A burr?
Yeah.
Is a burr in the fur? Yeah. Letter C on page 44. Answer the questions. Number 1. Which flower is an aster? Letter A. Number 2. How can you tell?
Because it's on this a whole entire stick.
Right. There. Well, so are the other ones.
Yeah, but these are like on one whole stick.
Right. Well, there's several blooms on one stalk.
Can I say many blooms on one stalk?
Which I always heard these were called. I just had it. Fleabane. I took a class in college and I thought they said it was called fleabane, but it's maybe it is called that and it's a type of aster. I don't know.
Is the
So what's letter B called?
daisy?
A daisy. maybe we'll play a game with it on Monday. Okay?